Welcome to the Whispering Soul. I'm Nancy Volante, certified wellness coach and humanistic astrologer. And today I have with me as my guest, Dina Birin. Am I saying that right, Dina?
Baron.
Baron?
Baron, yeah.
Dina Barron. So let me just, before we start in our conversation, I'm really happy to be here with her because she's got a lot to offer, a lot of insight into what's going on, how we're feeling. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about her. So, Dina is a certified life coach, and she integrates astrology, tarot, numerology, palmistry, and charms, which I think is very charming. I think that's so unique, into coaching sessions that are both enchanting and grounded. She guides clients to trust their instincts, find stability, and make decisions that genuinely align with their values. Dina authored The Way Within, Igniting Your Intuition with Sacred Tools. In all her work, she is energized by witnessing people boldly connect with themselves and step confidently in their futures, which is so beautiful and so giving. And, those are the kind of coaches that we need right now because the world is unstable. And there is stability too, because it's always in duality, right? We always have a mixed bag. So I think the key is, and what we do and what you're doing is to find the opening where we can become more conscious and mindful to be able to bring that into alignment. So I'm really happy to be here in conversation with you. And today we wanted to talk a little bit and what Dina, and if you can correct me if I'm wrong, what you work with your clients. I don't know if you do this as a workshop, but why uncertainty is sacred. And when you mentioned that to me, Dean, and what we were talking about before, when had our conversation before this, um, it really struck me because of what we're going through now with Uranus shifting and into another archetype. And with Uranus, there's always uncertainty. So that's where I'm coming from as an astrologer, as you are too. So what are some of the ideas around that?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. Thank you, Nancy, for inviting me and hello
Absolutely.
to all your guests. It's a pleasure to be here. So, yes, uncertainty is a big topic, and I work a lot with clients that are in what I call transition. They are at a crossroads, and whether that be they are changing careers, they are becoming an empty nest, they are deciding to move to a new area of the world, they're going through a divorce or some sort of relationship change, they come to me when life feels unsteady. So uncertainty is something that I work with on a regular basis. But it seems to me that lately, more and more, uncertainty has become a theme. And just like, and I'm an astrologer and I also work with the tarot cards. And I know that some people think that there are some planets that are malefics that are not positive, and they think that there are some tarot cards that are not positive, and sometimes what they can do is they can lump uncertainty also into that pile of things that are not so positive.
So that,
And
if you don't mind me interjecting just for a moment, I love that you bring that up. Let's talk a little bit more about that between the malefic, as you say, through astrology and through tarot, because it's really true, Dina. I've had clients say to me, "Oh, I'm really afraid because I'm not quite sure what you're going to say," and it's not about that. It's not about, for me, anyways. It's not about predicting. And the same with tarot. I don't read the tarot, but I love them. And people have said, "Oh no, I'm afraid what I'm going to get. Oh no, what if I get the devil card, or what if I get?" So, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's fascinating.
yeah, actually, it's funny. Like right before this podcast, I have a client of mine that just emailed me and told me that she has some real fears around the quote unquote bad cards in the deck. And I understand that for example, the devil and the death card, those are the two that people are most fearful of. But I'll let you know there are worse cards in the deck than just the devil and the death card. But I think that it's all how you look at it, and just like in life, like I don't think that anything can be all good or all bad. And I do believe that there are lessons and there is learning in every situation. So what I would like to do and how I like to teach it is I tell you there are no bad cards because I can give you the upside of the death or the devil card. I can give you the downside to it. I can tell you how there are great lessons to be learned, and I can talk to you about the highs and the wonderful successes that are possible when you show up in these cards, with your full self. So
But that's so amazing because, we live in duality, right? So
we do.
we live in this duality and with, the archetypes, the planets. Just come from that, from being an astrologer, right? And
Mm,
you also, and adding that tarot on with it, to me brings forth consciousness and unconsciousness. So it's about free will. All of it is about
yes.
free will and choice. And this planet is about what choices are we making? Are we going to grow through the unconscious into the consciousness? So that's the work, that's the real transformation. So both entities, if you will, or frequencies are relevant, but we can't bypass one and go to
No,
the other. And
I
so
always say
so that's where I think the work is whole, is when we bring together the lower vibration, which is the teacher, the higher vibration, which is the way. It's always the teacher too, but it's the way to growth and potential. Does that make sense to you?
that 1000% makes sense. And it goes back to like I have like, certain little sayings that just ring true to me. And this what comes to mind for me is like the only way out is through.
Yeah,
So the only
so
way you're going
beautiful.
to get through, like, and you know what, there are, like, I know we all have been through Saturn returns, or many
Right,
of us have, and we've all gone through Mercury retrograde,
right.
which, has a very bad reputation out in the world kind of thing. But there's a lot of growing and learning that happens along with all of these transits in our lives. So the first thing that came to me when we thought about the topic of uncertainty is sacred, I thought of, I completed the sentence, so to speak, saying uncertainty is sacred because transformation happens there.
Absolutely, Dina. Well said. I love that. It's
Thank
that
you.
space in between, right? That liminal space that if we want to keep jumping over that, we miss the medicine, so to speak.
So much. And you know what? When we lose our certainty, we loosen the grip
Yeah.
on our old stories and our old identities.
Mm.
So this in between space, when we are kind of not quite here and not yet there, it's uncomfortable, but it is also full of possibility. And this is where our new selves take place. So this is where like the new seed is being planted, where the new, green little sprout is poking through. And the only way this is possible is through uncertainty.
And I love that because uncertainty does hold the embodiment of being uncomfortable. And I think that if you, in my perspective, in our society, we've grown to, we don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. We want everybody to feel good, whether that is, taking medication, whether that is doing something that might be a little bit more addictive, but self-medicating instead of feeling what it feels like to be uncomfortable. To me, what I call that's the body consciousness speaking. It's so important,
Yes.
Dina. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And in these moments, like that was one of my next things I was going to mention is
Yep.
like we are asked to listen to ourselves much more deeply because and the thing is we are not rushing to fill the void because we don't know the answer. I think that when we are in our routines, when we are in our, and I mean, part of me wants to even call this autopilot because
Yes.
when we get very comfortable and we get very used to a certain way of operating in the world, we stop thinking about what it takes to get from point A to point B.
And we stop feeling.
Yes. Yes. And I don't want to stop feeling. I don't want to stop paying attention. I mean, I feel like, I live in New York City and I walk around and I see people with their face in their phones, not looking up, not paying attention. I mean, I see people with those orthopedic boots on because they've like fallen off the curb because they've been so busy what they're focusing on their phone that they're not even noticing that they're going to trip
So
over their own
that
two
in
feet.
itself is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I love that you brought that up. Let's bring that in because I think people can relate to that.
Mm.
They can take a bite off that and digest it. Like when things like that happen, oh, you fall off a curve and you sprain your ankle or this, that's the universe saying, you need to slow down. Let's just be for a moment in the body. And what can we do to listen to, or what is it that needs to be um, digested in a way that gives us an opportunity to feel that uncertainty? Because when you sprain your ankle, it's like everything is uncertain. Well, I can't go to work. I can't do this. I can't do that. Right.
You can't operate your life the way that you're used to.
Yeah.
And this is what, this is paired with. So this uncomfortable situations. And sometimes, like in a situation like that, if you were to sprain your ankle, you kind of put yourself in your own situation. And you know that it is for a set period of time. You go to the doctor says you'll be in this boot for 8 weeks. And then okay, in 8 weeks, that's gonna suck that I'm in there for 8 weeks, but at least in 8 weeks, I
I'm
can go
done.
back. Exactly, exactly. And although when we are going through this uncertainty in our lives, there part of the discomfort is the fact that we don't have an endpoint. We don't have it's going to end on this date. Because the thing is, what happens is when we start establishing new patterns and start becoming that next version of us, it's in small increments. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's so beautiful because I wanted to ask you, like, what would you do if somebody in your work, and like,
Hmm.
what would you pull from? And I know it's intuitive every time with different people. But if somebody came to you and said, oh, I can't go to work for 8 weeks, I can't do this for 8 weeks, how would you guide them to stay in that space of uncertainty for the moment in order to go past that to another way of self-talk, to another narrative?
Yeah, and this pulls in my coaching. My coaching
Yes.
mind
And we want to
immediately.
do that. Yeah.
It's funny because I have a client of mine who comes to me with questions, and every time he asks me a question, I ask him back a question. And he wants to know, do you always answer your questions with questions? And I said, well, the thing is, you are making decisions for your life. And, you who have known yourself your whole life, and me who showed up, relatively recently, I don't want to be the one making decisions. I want to be a light bringer. I want to be a guide. So I would say to you, first of all, what's important about where you are right now? So I would like to know, are you feeling frustrated? What's important about being
So
frustrated?
beautiful.
Are you angry? Like, what are the emotions that are coming up for you? Because we're going to need to maybe filter through this and really get to what I consider to be the root of it. Because sometimes anger and frustration and irritation and all these things are really just a cover for fear. And so the question is, what are you afraid of? And then I would like to know, how are you going to take care of that? How are you going to handle that? How are you going to talk to yourself about that?
And
So,
I love those questions. And what if, and I'm just being playing devil's advocate here because I think it's really at this point in time of all this transition this week that I'm sure, hopefully we'll have time to talk a little bit about.
yeah.
How do you get to that place? Because maybe that place holds trauma. So that frustration and anger at some point in your life was a way of protecting you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in addition to all the coaching questions and dealing with your
Yes,
values and all that stuff,
right.
a lot of information, as you know, is in your
Yes,
natal chart.
exactly. 100%.
So maybe we could start looking at, maybe I want to look at your IC. I want to look at your fourth house cusp. I want to see what's happening, maybe in your natal chart, but also what transits in the sky right now are
Yeah, or
possibly
even looking at
hitting
the
it.
moon
The
to
moon.
see, the moon is very important in that too. And I love it that you said the IC, the foundation, because oftentimes, and I've been reading about this, and I've had clients too that have said this, oh, I don't have anything. Let's just pick the fourth house. I don't have anything in the fourth house. Well, that might be okay, but you do have a gatekeeper, I call. What archetype is on the cusp? And if
Yeah.
you don't have anything in that house, wow, you get a new slate to work with. You know what I mean? And I just read this, Dina, and it really sparked something in me. Like, oh, a new slate. Because say you were just talking about, well, I want to look at the transits, or I want to look at what's going on around you, or the transits inside the birth chart. You might
Right.
have a packed full fourth house, packed. So that translate is a different kind of questions and way of dealing with a client than if that house was empty. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I'm
And
just
also like what
fascinated.
planets, like so if it's directly hitting Mars or directly hitting Pluto,
Mhm.
do you have an opposition? Do you have a square? And then, also what is happening with that planet or
Yeah.
that sign or there's just
Mhm.
there's like
There's
so like
so
for
much.
example, there's so much happening in Aries right now. Like so what if your fourth house was in Aries?
Mhm.
And then you're like, okay, a
So I
lot.
will I'll be really transparent. So
Yeah.
my fourth house, so then we'll get back to uncertainty, but I love this. So my fourth house is empty. I don't have any planets
Okay.
in there, but my fourth house is ruled by Aries.
Wow. So your
So
root,
there
so like your
is.
childhood,
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on, but it's a new slate of, oh, let me look back into my lineage. What is it that I can do to change or break? Because I have a new slate, I can do that with consciousness. And there is uncertainty there too, right? Because every
right?
time you go, I'm getting this, I'm learning this from you right now. Every time that you make a change or you answer a question, it pulls you back into uncertainty, right? Because
Right.
you have to think, feel, be, feel sensate. It's everything. So that's why I wanted to. There's one more question. No, a couple. If we, yep, we can do it. You had said why, and I love this question. Why can uncertainty actually be a sacred part of becoming? With all that we've talked about right now, which I feel is like the juice and
Hmm.
really what is the medicine to in order something to for something to actually begin to happen.
Yeah. Well, first of all, uncertainty is very humbling.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that we're always in the process of becoming. So
Mm,
life is not a fixed destination. It's a continual evolution.
mm.
So whenever we're willing to be present with uncertainty, we are making space for creativity, for new possibilities, and for parts of ourselves that haven't had room to emerge.
That's so beautifully said, Dina. That is so, and it's very healing, and it's not easy, right? It's
It's not
easier
easy.
said
And you
than
know what?
done. But with support from people like you that are out there and that are grounded in what you're doing, I'll include myself in that.
Yes.
I think that's really a beautiful segue into what is up for us this week, and it's a big deal. And we probably, like
Yeah.
last night, I could sleep, Dina, but I could feel the energy buzzing. I'm an Aquarian, so I feel I like Uranus. um Surprise, surprise, right?
Well, you're
um
ruled by Uranus, so yes.
but but I could feel the energy, the electrical energy. And we are moving into this uncertainty, right? As Uranus shifts into Gemini, into from Earth, Taurus, right? As you know,
Yep.
but I want to tell our listeners into Gemini air. Those are very different elements.
Very
Now
different.
we're moving into something that we've been kind of used to in a way, that Taurus energy for the last 7 or 8 years. Now we're moving into Gemini. I'd love to get your take on how you are perceiving, what your perspective is on this through the lens of uncertainty.
Yeah, well, Taurus is known for its steadiness and the core values that we've cultivated over time. And as Venus is approaching this final degree of Taurus, and it's forming this conjunction with with Uranus, which is
Yep.
all about sudden shifts and awakening. It's a it's really moving us into like a more curious energy. And so I feel that it is forcing us to, and I love the idea of curiosity.
Absolutely.
Curiosity is that is where ideas are born. That is where our creativity blossoms from. And so when I'm looking at this, this transit, this situation as, and once again, like we can fear things, we can resist them, but that's not going to change the fact that it's coming, that it's happening. And so what I try to do is I try to lean into it. I lean into it and I embrace it. And then what I do is I use my tools. I use my tools of meditation. I use my tools of journaling. I use my tools of visualization and imagination just to imagine what I can do with this energy. And I, I have this thought that it's like I live as if it's already happening. So it's like acting as if that's the process. And so I'm acting as if the Gemini energy is already in my corner. It is already serving me in the best way possible, whether that be through lessons and learning, or whether that be through lifting me up like the air that it is, and to kind of like lift me like a kite, I almost figure, to kind of gently point me in the direction so I can land where it is I'm meant to be.
That's a really great visualization, and I love that. I love that what you just said, and that's very different than what we've experienced the last 8 years, right? And so, also, I just wanted to add with Gemini is the shadow side of Gemini can be a little bit because we have to have both, or we tend to
Yeah.
bypass. All of us. I've done it. Everybody has done it. It's just part of being human. But Gemini can get ungrounded because it wants to go this way and that way, and it's so multi-functional and dimensional, if you will. And so I think that one of the main things of this new transit that's going to happen is listening, and listening through the nervous system.
I love
So we have
that.
to take care of our nervous system, right? So, like you were saying, the tools, it's really good. If you can't lean into it, and I love that you use that analogy of leaning in, and some people can't physically, then they have people like you and other beautiful healers out there that are using these tools to really support and help and guide. It's really about guiding one to being aligned with themselves. And I think that uncertainty is a journey of coming back home to a sense, Dina, from what
Yes.
I'm
I
gathering.
I really love that. And I also want to just kind of shine a little light on something that people sometimes do. Like I look at people as like the metaphorical ostrich. They like want to hide their head in the sand. And what you want to do is you want to avoid it. You want to just kind of prevent this from kind of like crashing into your life and being
And that's
disruptive in
human,
some way.
right?
And that is human. But I want the message to be like this is not something that's going to come and like tear you in two. This is not something that's going to destroy you. It's something that's going to reinforce you. It's something to it's going to teach you and then you're going to find a new way to do it. So I invite your audience to look at this as an opportunity to get like a couple of new tools in
Yeah.
your toolbox
Yes.
so you can find a way for you to become that next version of
Mm.
you.
So what tools, two tools for us, as we have one more question and then we come to a uh, conclusion of everything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
What two tools, connecting with Uranus and Gemini, would you recommend for people? And it's not right for everybody. We know that one shoe does not fit all, right? There's a lot of tools, but just to bring it down and to ground what we've been talking about, two tools that might be helpful in the transition of earth to air.
Yeah. Well, one of them that comes to me is creative writing.
Yeah, for sure.
And this could be writing that you don't need to show anybody.
Yeah.
So you can, or you can become, a really, a creative dream like writer. And another one would be like, I would feel like move your body. Like I would say, turn on some music that lights you up and makes you feel like you want to move and just have like a dance party in your kitchen or something. Like it doesn't have to be like you're going out to a club. This is a very personal moment. And everyone is experiencing it in a different way. And I mean, also take it out into nature. Just what is it that lights you up, that makes you feel, like your senses are being woken up and that you
Beautiful.
are able to just come alive in the world. And I would even invite you to do something a little bit out of your routine, something a little bit unique, something a little bit off the beaten path that maybe like do something like, roller skating or, or something that's just like fun that maybe you used to do. So maybe getting back to like when you're just talking about your fourth house, it's like, get back to your childhood. What did you like to do
That
when you were young and that maybe you haven't done anymore? Like that could be like baking,
yeah.
cupcakes and decorating them with all
So,
different kinds of fun toppings.
Dina, that's so funny that you say roller skating and my fourth house childhood. I used to roller skate all the time as a kid. I used to go to roller skating parties. I used to roller skate on the street, not roller blade, roller
Yep, I know we used to have like
skating.
those sneaker
And it,
skates. Did you
you
have
know,
those?
and it's so beautiful. So I love what you just said. I really love what you just said.
How about
I
you?
just
How would you what do you recommend people do with these transits?
Well, that's a whole nother thing, right? And I want to focus on what your tools are. Um, but I would go with those tools. I think that those tools are really, really beautiful. You
Thank
know,
you.
um, and this transit, this new way of being, it's going to develop a new communication age. So it really is about communication. And the things that you've said for the tools are about communication. So I think it's really important. I think our voice is going to be important. And for some of us, we have 7 to 8 years to go into this new energy. But going back, before I ask you not your, but the last question, is that conjunction with with Uranus and Taurus and Venus and Taurus. Venus and Taurus, I mean, Venus rules Taurus, rules the whole signature, right? And it's at you, as you said, in that anaretic degree of not 29 degrees, which is a threshold, right?
Very
It's saying
powerful.
to us, okay, we're at the end of this cycle of 7 to 8 years. So we're going to close the door on this. Is there anything that you can go over that you need to bring with you? Because it's all about weaving one thing into another. That's the beauty of astrology in the universe. What might you bring? What has transpired from 2018 when that Uranus and in Taurus started to now? So
It's been a
you are
wild eight
so right.
years.
Yeah, say that again. I'm
It's been a
sorry.
wild eight
A
years. I
wild
mean,
8 years. So
it's
go over that. And Dina is right. That transit is very important. That conjunction at 29 degrees, it could either be of urgency, crisis, or knowing.
we're going.
I add that in there Maybe a lot of astrologers don't, but I do. It doesn't always have to be a crisis with Uranus, and Venus doesn't want it to be a crisis. It wants you to find harmony and balance. So thank you for bringing that up. And you said everything so beautifully. So
Thank you.
how do we trust ourselves when life no longer fits the roles we've always known in a real concise kind of way as we're running out of time?
Okay, well,
Could
first of
have done
all, I
another
want
hour.
I know. So first of all, I want you to know uncertainty is not a sign of being lost.
Yeah,
It means that you're
beautiful.
alive and you are growing. So when things feel unfamiliar, this is an opening for your truest self. So the most sacred act is to let uncertainty change you. That is where your next chapter
Oh
begins.
my gosh, that's so beautiful. And you could pick up right there that chapter and just start writing, right? Keep your pen to the paper and don't even take it off.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Yes.
That's so beautiful. Dina, where can people find you? And where, your website, Instagram, wherever they can find you if they want to connect with you.
Yeah, well, my both my website and my Instagram is my name, Dina Barron, and I did self-publish my book, and it is for sale on Amazon. So you can put in my name or The Way Within, Igniting Intuition with Sacred Tools, and the book is for all levels. So I would love to, even if you are new and just trying to find a way to connect to your intuition, it is a great place to start. So there you go. I have something that I creatively wrote, so you can start somewhere.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's so beautiful, Dina. And I'm telling you, it has been such a pleasure having this, and I'd love to do it again. And
I'd
you know
love to.
what? I'd love to do it again. Let this transit of Uranus in Gemini take hold for a little bit, and then let's connect again and see where we're at, and maybe work with the tarot with that, because we didn't get a chance to talk about that. But finding the tarot connected to astrology is very fascinating, and
Very
numerology,
fascinating. Everything is woven together, and the
love it.
answers are, are so voluminous. Like it's just, there's so much
Wow.
there. So it's so
Well,
lovely to be here with you. So
oh,
lovely. You're wonderful, Nancy. Thank
thank
you.
you, Dina. So are you. And I'm so glad that we connected, and to be continued.
Yes. Till the next time.
Till the next time. And everybody have a great rest of your day or night. And Dina, have a great rest of your week. And we will talk soon.
Thanks.
You bet. Take care. Many
Bye.
blessings.